my mom's like, well, our kitchen is fairly new. And I said, well, Mom, actually, your kitchen is 30 years old. But in her mind, she had it renovated and it was in good shape. So she still felt like it was a new kitchen. And I'm like, not so much, Mom.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Helping Heroes Become Homeowners. I'm your podcast host, Richard Sarey with Alliance Mortgage Group. And today we've got two of my favorite realtors. I've been doing business with them for, 5-6 years? As long as Donna Magro introduced me to you guys. Still doing stuff with her. But Robert and Stephanie, they are with Keller Williams Central, right, in Dallas?
Yes.
Correct.
How long have you guys been doing real estate? Just in general?
I've been in the business for 25 years, but I started on the East Coast in the DC area.
Okay.
And I've been in for 5 years now. So I was in corporate America for 30 years and found a good jumping off point and got interested in this. And so here I am.
I sucked him in.
And yeah, let's say Stephanie got you in, right?
Yeah.
Good decision?
Yeah. And coincidentally, Donna actually sold me my first house years ago. So we've known her for a very long time.
So what's the difference between, you see a lot of realtor groups that are husband and wife. What is the dynamic to do it together versus just you guys doing your own thing?
Go ahead.
Well, I think there's always somebody to bounce ideas off of. And it was interesting. I had a lot of experience and I'd been an appraiser at one point as well as a realtor years ago. But it was interesting to see everything from fresh eyes. It's kind of like when people say they have children and then they're seeing the world through their child's eyes. When I was watching, Rob came up with these ideas that, you become so set in your ways after 20 years of doing it that he had great ideas that I'd never thought of doing.
Yeah. And what I like about it is there's enough new things for me to learn that it's challenging and it keeps me very excited and interesting. But also there's a lot of things that I've done in engineering and project management, which was my previous career, that also apply in real estate. Like a real estate transaction in and of itself is almost equal to the projects I used to do with the steps and everything. So there's enough familiarity so I don't feel completely lost, but enough new to really keep me interested and engaged.
Do you each do the same day-to-day, like structured day, or do you guys have your own separate structure on the day, or is it done together?
We do a lot of things. We were doing a lot of things completely together at one point, and then our coach said, if you want to be one person, then that works. If you want to be two people, you need to separate a little bit. So we do some things together. I do more of the marketing things. He's taken over working a lot with our buyers. I do a little bit more of the listing things. However, we actually do most of the listing stuff as a team.
So when you guys do the listing appointment, you're doing it together?
We always go together, as long as we can. And then he does all the back office
operations, finance, budgets, all that stuff that makes a lot of people's.
I'm curious, when you guys go together on a listing appointment, do you feel more comfortable that you're both in there together to where one can pick up what the other one might leave out, or does that seem to work better for you guys?
I think it does because, if you've got two different people, two different personalities, then we can kind of each, if it's another husband and wife, we can kind of each engage and kind of get a feel for what's important to each one and kind of address things on the fly as they come up. And I think it makes for a higher success at getting the listing.
I would agree with that. I'm always more comfortable visiting people, when I first started in the business, not knowing everything, and always felt more comfortable with someone next to me to pick up what I'm leaving out, or, just listening to them pick up the conversation and learning from how they're visiting and speaking with the client. I think that's a big deal. That's
and we tag team each other a lot. Kind of one will start something and the other one finishes. Yeah. So we make one complete human being together. So it works well for us.
Now you guys do the Dallas market, but you also do the surrounding area of Dallas. Or are you guys just in Dallas now?
we do the surrounding. We do a lot. We have always done a lot of things by referrals. So we'll have a client who's here, but then their children need to be further out, or their best friend. So we've gone as far south as Waxahachie,
Okay.
and up at north into Salina.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll
West
cover
Arlington,
wherever it's needed at the end of the day.
Wherever it's needed for the most
Okay.
part, unless we
Yeah.
feel like it's something we don't have the knowledge about. If
Yeah.
somebody wanted to be in a really particular, we had friends that wanted to buy beachfront property on the coast of
Galveston,
Texas,
yeah.
and we were like, no, we think you need to have a specialist down
absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
So many other rules about coastline real estate too, I think, in there.
Yes.
There are.
What about the market? So the market that you're in, that's because you guys live in Dallas. What is there anything going on in Dallas particular that you want to discuss? Is there any market trends? What is your market doing?
I would say in the Dallas area, market's still pretty strong. We're not having the craziness that we had, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. But most things, if they're priced right, that's always the key, right?
Yes.
But if they're priced right and appropriately, they're going fairly quickly. And if they're in good shape, we always, that's always kind of the thing is, are they updated, or are they still original, from 20 years ago?
Do you find the properties, because that's, Dallas is, I won't say all of Dallas is old money, but there's more older homes in the Dallas area, I would think. Do you find more properties that need a little bit more updating or repairs at all in that area?
It's very neighborhood by neighborhood. We're seeing more and more, obviously, people who are retiring and are ready to downsize. Some of those homes can be fairly dated, and I think, well, I just went through this with my parents. We got them to move here to Richardson, and my mom's like, well, our kitchen is fairly new, and I said, well, Mom, actually, your kitchen is 30 years old. But in her mind, she had it renovated, and it was in good shape, so she still felt like it was a new kitchen. And I'm like, not so much, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that happens a little bit. I think most people, if they're getting good guidance, they're finding out that they may need to do a little updating, and we can help them with that.
Yeah, I did a podcast a few weeks ago on VA renovation loans. And, it's been a long time since I did a VA renovation loan or ever considered the product, but I had a VA expert on that from one of my lenders that I place business with. And he kind of opened up the doors on how awesome that really is. So, they'll do the FHA renovation, the conventional, and the VA. I think that would have a lot of help in the buyer's aspect of things, if they want to come in and update, because you can just include that in the loan amount and it gets financed in. If they qualify for that, it gets done. So it's something to consider if you're looking to buy a home that's maybe a little dated or needs to be updated. I would consider that in your pre-qualification or pre-approval process, for sure. What challenges do you guys or opportunities do you see buyers have in the marketplace right now?
Well, I guess number one is the ever-present, at least for now, interest rate challenge. Affordability versus interest rates.
Yeah.
That's I think for us, it's pushed some buyers out further than they want to be out into the further suburbs to be able to find something that they can afford. And obviously inventory, because inventory is still low. Kind of the opposite thing. Since the interest rates are high, I think there's a lot of sellers that are not selling because they don't know where they're going to go and what they're going to buy. So I guess just buyer budgets and low inventory are a couple of things I see. I don't know what you want to add to that.
I would say those are challenges. I think on the good side, and some of our clients have been aware of this. If they've got some money to do things, there's not as much competition now.
Right.
We still got our last listing that we closed. We still had multiple offers, but it was only 3 offers instead of 27. It was, and so you didn't, they went a little bit over the asking price, but it wasn't 20% over the asking price, which is what we were getting last year.
So one of the things actually before I came on with you guys, there was a news article on TV with Redfin that a certain percentage of the country, the sellers had a price drop in October on their homes. So that does open up the conversation that there is opportunity out there, even though rates are higher than what we would like for them to be, is maybe take some of that reduction in sales price and use it maybe in a different way to get the payment down. Because if you take a little bit of that reduction and instead of paying less for the house, use it as a concession and pay what they originally had it for, your payment's going to be much lower than if you just paid 10 grand less for the house when it comes to principal and interest. So, in the few podcasts that we've had, we talked specifically about those strategies, but that is the most common one now to really get it where it needs to be and let the market correct and have that opportunity. Because like you said, there was only 3. 18 months ago, there was 30, and people were paying more than what the list price of that home was, even though rates were lower. I mean, at the end of the day, you may come out losing money if you want to wait and be on the sidelines. So it is something to consider as a buyer and also as a seller, because you want to sell a house. So you as a seller, I think, would make up what you're losing maybe on the sale on your next purchase by having that same strategy. So it's definitely a full-blown conversation to have on both sides, always on that.
Yeah.
So the neighborhoods, have you seen any declines as far as purchase price being reduced after 30 days, 60 days? I mean, how long are sellers usually waiting before they say, hey, I want to probably reduce the price?
I think it's on kind of a case-by-case basis, depending on how urgent they need to sell the house. I mean, I've seen people start dropping the price after just a couple of weeks, and to me, that kind of indicates they're in a hurry to sell it. Maybe they've got another property they've bought or want to buy. I guess more typical is, like you just said, the 30-day mark seems to be kind of a common, I guess, normal as anything is, benchmark for dropping prices. And I don't know if there's really price reductions. I think it goes back to what Stephanie said a few minutes ago, that it's really about pricing it correctly for what the market will bear versus a price decline. I don't know what you would
I would say I don't know that I've seen a lot of actual true decline, but what I've seen is people who expect that they should be getting, they're still on the idea that they're going to get more. They're going to get significantly more than the last person who should be getting more than the last person who should be getting more than the last person. And that instead, I'm seeing it just kind of, it's like, we really need to say, okay, here's where the last one sold. And this is, yours is similar condition or not, and then price for that.
I think expectation and what you hear in the media has a little bit, I think, to do with that mindset too. Because, as I was telling a little bit about that story about reducing price, they also came back and said, well, the houses are sitting for longer than they should be. Well, of course, that's the reason why they're declining. But I think the mindset that some sellers may have, like you mentioned, is they think that house should sell right away. So that puts a lot of pressure, I guess, on you guys, right? When you're listing that property, do you give expectations of what the market's doing as you're in that listing appointment with the sellers? About as far as what the average days on the market is going to be?
Yeah, we try to go over all of that pre-listing as far as timing and what the average length of time. And but I still kind of say that even though there may be things are sitting a little bit longer, that probably if it was priced properly in the beginning, unless it's a really unique property, if it was priced the right way, it probably isn't going to sit much more than 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's accurate.
I have a friend of mine that our kids grew up together, and he's wanting to move, and he put his house on the market. Maybe, I think this will be the 3rd week, and he's had a bunch of open houses, but he's not really getting any offers right now. And it may be that you got a lot to deal with that. You got what people think about interest rates. You got the time of the year. And his price point is, higher than most first-time home buyer prices. So there's a lot of things going on. But in his mind, he's like, well, if it doesn't sell in a week. I'm going to take it off and relist it in the spring. So, I don't know if that would be a mindset that you hear out there with sellers that, hey, let's list it for a few months, see what activity we get, and then we'll just relist it late spring, early summer. Do you see more activity happening in that time of the year?
Definitely. Yeah. It's definitely, and this is across the country. I mean, I've sold houses in, I guess, 4 states now, and out of the country. And spring is always a better time. Or when it's the majority of people out there. And it actually has some pros and cons. All year round can be a great time to sell. It's just
right.
what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so for some people, they want to be in that whole madness part. I would say, though, on the flip side is the buyers who are out in the fall tend to be more serious and more committed to looking.
Yep.
If they have to move at that point, then they're probably doing it for a really good reason. They're not just window shopping or kicking tires, as you want to say.
Now, are you taking viewing showings if you do not have a pre-qualification letter in hand? Do you guys have anything that you have to have from?
You mean when we have the buyer or when we have the listing?
When you have a buyer, and that buyer wants to come look at your property, do they have to provide a pre-approval letter to see the house?
You mean, no, we don't ask them to. If we have a buyer, before we start showing them houses, we always want them to have a pre-qual,
right?
And a lot of time, and then to be under agreement with us, because otherwise it's really hard. I had a client years ago. I made the mistake of taking somebody out when they hadn't spoken to the lender, and they told me what they thought they could qualify for. But they hadn't taken into consideration things like HOA fees and taxes and all those other things that add in there. And so we started looking at the time it was $400,000 houses. Well, then when they finally went to the lender said you can do 325. And 325 does not look nearly as attractive as 400 when you have to go backwards. Right. So now we always make sure. I wouldn't say that we necessarily request one from the buyer's agent before they come to view one of our listings.
Yeah, that to me is something you do with the offer. And, we even also take the step of once the offer's in, we'll actually call the lender to, just kind of get a feel for how far along they are in the qualification process. What wickets do they still have to go through, that kind of thing, to get a better feel and to give our client a better feel of exactly how strong the offer is from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, we generally don't, from a listing standpoint, if our seller gets an offer and the person hasn't been pre-qualified, we usually recommend they don't accept it until we get the pre-qual something from the lender.
Okay. So this is obviously it's a VA podcast. We want to talk a little bit about VA too. With your experience on both sides, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you hear about the VA home loan or have heard?
I think people have a lot of misconceptions about them.
So many.
I think there's a misconception that there's going to be that the seller has to pay a bunch of closing costs. I think there's the misconception that it's a significantly harder appraisal process. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people who think that the people are not as well qualified, or that they can only get lower priced homes. I don't think most people realize that. I think it's $780,000 is the current loan amount, max loan amount, or something. If I'm not mistaken.
There's no max loan amount for VA if you have full entitlement.
Oh,
but if you don't, then yes, you got to confirm the county loan limit, which is now $766,550.
I guess I would also add to that everybody, it seems to be there's this misconception that VA loans take longer to close, and it's, I think you said it, a more difficult appraisal process. So I think those are the ones that I've seen.
Let me ask you this question: So out of all the realtors that I asked that question to, it's all the same. It's all the same common answer, which is really strange to say the least. I mean, those 4 or 5 that you just rattled off were told to me yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm trying to get an understanding of what you think as realtors, why realtors have that mindset. Is it because they had maybe a bad transaction? Is it bad training? I'm trying to figure it out because VA home loans have the highest qualified rate, the highest approval rate. I say the highest qualified rate,
Mm-hmm.
the lowest interest rate on the market you get with a VA
Yeah.
home loan. Your approval rate is about 93%, 95% approval rate. You can do manual underwrites on a VA home loan. You really can't do that on a conventional loan. So it just strikes me odd that it's the same answers. Any idea why that would be?
I think it's lack of education. I think there's a misperception that there's conventional loans and everybody lumps FHA loans and VA loans together, and they don't take the time to educate themselves about what the differences are and things we just discussed. That it's not necessarily a more difficult appraisal. That the buyers are not necessarily less qualified, and they just have never taken the time to take a little bit deeper dive and become more knowledgeable about things.
I think it's education. I think, and people are always afraid a little bit of what they don't know.
Right.
I think we didn't do this, but we had another agent. Um, as I said, I've done a lot of VAs back in the day, especially because of DC, there was so many military, and my parents were military. But I think we had a lady who actually had a kind of a pamphlet, and when she sent her offer over, she sent it with this pamphlet about VA loans, and we had obviously done them before and knew that it was fine, but I thought that's something we should all be doing is sending, because there's so many brand new agents out there that have only been agents for a couple of years, and um, they don't really know, and then they're being told. I think it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That other agents are going, oh, don't ever take the VA or go for the conventional. If you can't get cash,
Yeah.
you really want a conventional.
What I call the fifth hand rumor.
Yeah. And that's such a disservice to the veteran.
Oh,
Totally.
absolutely.
And because you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know about this product until you go through it. What I've been doing is I'm trying to do as much education about this loan product as I can with as many realtors I come across. So one of the things that I came up with was Helping Heroes Become Homeowners is now a class. It's a CE class. And realtors can come in and get an extra 2 hours a year if they need it, whatever, even if they don't need it. It's a class I highly recommend. It goes more of a deep dive into this product to help them get a better understanding about what it really is and how it can benefit both sides and still get the loan done quickly and still net the same amount for the seller and everything all together. So it's something that one of the reasons why I've started the podcast. I've done the VA classes to get that out there because like you guys have been in the business for so long and you still hear that. So what do you do when you overcome that as a realtor when you're representing a VA buyer? Do you have the lender step in? I know we've done a few where I've called the agent, letting them know a little bit about the VA home loan to help get that process through, or at least let them consider the offer. But is there anything special that you guys do when you have an offer from a buyer?
Well, now I'm sorry. Repeat the question because I'm not
Do you
sure.
guys
Yeah,
do
you clicked
anything
it for a second,
to
we
help
lost
the
you.
buyer get that offer accepted when you're representing a VA buyer, when you're talking to the agent on the listing side?
Yeah, well, one, we always like to make sure that we've got, I mean, a lot of times it's you. But we try to make sure we've got a great lender for our buyer. I've got some other banks that have referred me clients that were VAs since I've been here. And it's always nice if you can have a lender who's available to walk them through it a little bit more, so that they understand. And sometimes we try to do the education, and that's why I keep thinking we need to get that woman's pamphlet, and that, because I think that is a fabulous thing.
While you say that, look, I've got mine that I can send anybody who's listening.
See,
Okay.
There you
There you
go.
go.
okay, we need that.
You'll get it right after the show.
We'll take that.
In a nice PDF.
All right. Yeah. And also just, to me, one of the most important parts about this job in general is communication. So, if we've got an offer, we want to speak directly with a listing agent, not just throw it in an email and send it over and hope that it gets accepted. So we, establish communication prior. So we've got some rapport, and, it's not just like some stranger is calling. So get some credibility built up with the other agent, and then educate and talk about, what a VA loan, see what their experience is with VA loan, try and see if they're under these bad impressions, misconceptions about what's going on. And if they are, then to educate them and show them and give them examples of how it isn't what they think it is.
I also like to look, when we're showing houses, sometimes it's interesting, I can frequently, and I'm sure most agents can, you can frequently figure out if the home is owned by a vet already.
Mm-hmm.
If they were somebody who served, and or with some of these other things with, the teacher programs, or that, you can kind of tell where somebody's at. And I still like to try to call up and give the other agent some information about our clients. These are retiring military, or these are a relocating, family. They just, finished tour of duty, or what, some of that information, because I think one thing that we lose sometimes is the human factor.
Yeah.
These are not numbers. These are people, and these are families that we're helping. These are, so this is not just a deal. This is somebody's home, and somebody's selling the home, and somebody's buying the home.
And as you mentioned, that it's more than just a transaction, because you have a service member, active duty veteran. You don't know what they've gone through, and you don't know how that's going to change their life, recovery, getting back into civilian life, becoming a homeowner. So you may keep that in consideration when you're looking at offers, and you see a VA home loan offer. Is you may help that family out more than you really know by considering that. And learning more about that loan product, because it's not like I mentioned earlier. There's so many things inside that loan that people don't know. I'll give you an example. We closed 3 months ago, and this listing agent knew a little bit about the VA home loan, but she got a pretty good sizable concession, more than what was needed. So what VA allows is there's no cap on closing costs, but there's a cap on a concession dollar amount, which is 4% of the purchase price. I had more than what I needed for closing costs, but at the end of the day, I had, I think, $15,000 to $18,000 of money I could do whatever I want with. So they paid off their debt. So all that debt for them got paid off with the concession. You can't do that with FHA. You can't do that with conventional. So it helped them tremendously, because they walked into that new house debt free, and money in the bank from the sale of their house, and they put nothing down. I mean, both sides won. The seller netted what they wanted, even with those concessions, and they got what they wanted out of it on the buy. So there's just so many things about that product that, like I said, just helped them out tremendously.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about you. What are your daily habits? So if I'm a real estate agent that's brand new in the business, what are you doing daily to help you get more listing appointments, attract more buyers to use your services? What are you guys doing?
Lead generation. It's actually a Keller Williams saying, it's without leads, nothing matters. So if you don't have any leads, then it kind of goes backwards. You can just break it down backwards. However many transactions you close depends on how many clients you get under contract. depends on how many people you meet and how many people you call to get those meetings. So it tracks backwards. You can get it. We have it down to percentages, so we know how many people we have to call till we get an appointment, till we get a contract or a listing or buyer agreement, till we get something in the books. So have to definitely time block for lead generation, pretty much time block for everything, have an organized schedule and stick to it. Don't just stick to it for a couple of days, be consistent. I don't know what
I was gonna say, it's really easy in this job because so many of us work from home.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get sidetracked and, be doing other things around the house. And so I think you have to really, and this is hard for me. It's really hard for me. I fall off the wagon all the time with it. Like, suddenly I'm like, oh, I didn't do any real work today. And then we're pretty friendly. So we are pretty good about keeping in touch with past clients and friends and meeting other people. We went to an event last night and I came home for the ACC. It was actually an alumni event for ACC schools. And we started chatting with these young ladies, and I came home with 3 phone numbers of people who wanted to get more information. They're probably a couple years out from buying a home, but we put those people into our pipeline and keep talking to them and see them at the next event and, any of the game watching parties. And
so what CRM do you guys use for that? Do you have your own that Keller's provides, or do you have your own system?
KW has a system called Command that's a CRM system, and then we put all our transactions in there for compliance checks with our broker and things like that. So it's kind of an all-in-one thing, and we do enlist a couple of outside things. I know you like the Bomb platform.
I use Bomb for video emails and such. Then we use some for creating. I do all the marketing things, so at this point, so creating a lot of our stuff, I use Canva and things to create. There are design things in the Command app, but I don't like them as well as Canva.
Yeah, it's just trying to pick what works best for us as far as, it is multiple kind of platforms, but it's a system that we like and use, so that makes it good for us.
So in your opinion, what's the best skill that you probably want to instill in yourself to be successful as a real estate agent?
I would say staying educated, staying abreast of what's going on in the market, what's going on with our clients, and just never stop learning and growing to, that makes you be able to represent your clients the best and helps you just stay grounded and well-rounded if you're working on yourself.
Yeah. And I guess we do a lot of stuff where we try to always come from a place of knowledge and provide things. Right. But as far as like the skill, so you always have to be very educated and stuff for that and keep up with that and not just wing things. Know your contracts and stuff inside and out. I'm shocked by how many people are using contracts every day and have no idea what it actually says in there.
And not just new agents, people who have been in the business, longer than we have.
Yeah.
I guess it's just the number of transactions or lack of education, something along those lines.
I think the biggest skill is communication.
Yeah.
Whether you're meeting strangers and making them friends, or whether you're seeing past clients, just always communicating well, being friendly.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest skill set to have as an originator is to know your craft, is to know, don't try and know everything. I mean, of course I want to know everything, but at the end of the day, if I want to be better at a certain product, whatever, I'm going to dive in, I'm going to learn that product immediately. And I'm going to build on that. Now, I like to say put out fires. I'm a big fixer, and that's my downfall in my marriage. I like to fix things with my wife, and she doesn't want things to be fixed. So
there's books on that.
I'll give a one answer solution and leave the room. But when it comes to doing this day to day, if I've got a scenario that a realtor is telling me, I'm already in my head going, how can I fix it? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? I think I can get away with this. So it's something that I've always, I think, kind of been a little bit good at, is just fixing problems and learning how to fix those problems, because you know the guidelines, you know what you've done before, you've closed that scenario before, and you know how to get it done. So it helps me in my business to be able to improve, to show clients that you know what you're doing at the end of the day.
Yeah,
they have that trust
goes
in
along
you that
with
you're going to get it
very
done.
positive.
Are there any other ways that you guys stay up to speed on the financing side of things, updates, with guidelines, or are you doing anything, in generally speaking, to stay up to date with things?
Well, we look for relevant webinars, things like that. We also have in our office at KW, there's a very big emphasis on education. We do what we call Millionaire Mondays. That is always an educational piece, and sometimes we have lenders come in and talk about things. One of our coaches is a veteran, so she's very strong and is pushes hard to make sure everybody knows about the VA products, and helps to educate people. So it's just between that education and what we see come across for webinars. Sometimes it's a trial and error. You have to kind of jump in there, and it may not be worth anything once you get there, but you just have to keep looking for the little nuggets of wisdom, wherever you can.
And then I probably have 4 or 5 different online things that I'm getting emails from constantly. Things like Inman and Housing Wire, and that are sending articles all the time. And so when I see something that pops up, then that triggers me to go Google further. Until I feel like I've got the right, or I call you and ask questions. Text you.
Yeah, you were talking about being a fixer. She's a detective, so she always wants to get down into the very to the very depths of a topic till she completely understands.
Until I tear it apart.
And there's been so many different, I wouldn't say changes, but product update from a mortgage perspective that, we have now the opportunity to use the special finance credit program, I believe is what the name of it is. So if you live in a certain area, which I don't know how Freddie and Fannie are getting away with it, but they are. But if you live in a certain zip code area that's on their map, you don't have to buy that area. But if you live in that area and if there's no income limitation on it, you could get up to a $6,000 grant towards closing costs.
Wow.
I think that was kind of a pilot area in certain areas of the country, and now they've expanded that. So I've got a client right now that he does qualify for that, but unfortunately he can't do a conventional loan. He has to go FHA. So, but it's things like that there's more things being released to help people become homeowners. So that's what I'm saying. Once rates improve, you're going to have another influx of people that couldn't do something a year ago that can now, and they're going to be in the market.
Yep.
So if you're out there listening and you don't think homeownership's the way to go right now, you want to jump in now if you can and get a good deal on a house, because they're on the market, and there's sellers wanting to sell and there's buyers wanting to buy. They're just kind of looking maybe for that perfect situation, that perfect deal.
Yeah.
So is there anything new with Keller Williams that you guys want to talk about? Is there any special? I know Keller Williams is one of the top companies right in the country, right?
Yeah.
Are they doing anything special?
I think we are the largest as far as franchising. We're all independent companies, but I think we're the largest in the world at the moment.
And so I guess that brings up something. It's not brand new, but it's newish. I mean, KW is expanded into other countries. They're picking up brokerages, or they're setting up brokerages in other countries, and I can't remember. I think we're in close to 100 countries now. So
wow.
That helps us to be able to service worldwide. Clients not just here in the U.S. And if you we're kind of interested in it. Haven't really, gotten it out of our head and onto paper, but maybe buying a property in another country at some point, so you have some place to
Well,
go.
Stephanie used to sell real estate in
Yeah,
what?
St. Lucia in the Caribbean.
yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
we toy around with that. As far as other new things, I think I mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, was that KW, at least our brokerage, is always heavily focused on education. So that, helps us, as you put it a few minutes ago, perfect your craft. We've just keep rolling out educational pieces. I'm actually on the ALC, which is the Associate Leadership Council, and I'm the chair for education and career development. So I'm always looking for ideas for classes and ask around the brokerage, see who's got good ideas. So, we get a lot of really good input from people that, they want to know something, and, we'll find something to help address that.
I know of a good class. I got a good one for you.
Okay.
It's the VA home loan
All right.
That would be
class.
fabulous.
Get CE credit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I was just
Excellent.
thinking that when you were talking earlier, but and I would say so. I've over the years, I wasn't always a Keller Williams agent. I've been a variety of others, and they were all fabulous companies. I have to say, I never had a bad brokerage, any place that I was at. But I have never seen the level of training. I mean, I wish when I'd started, I had the opportunities that the
Yeah,
new agents.
I've heard a lot about Keller Williams on that. People who work there, it's just phenomenal how they get you through.
Yeah, and get them up and get them going. Like I think it took me. I mean, I think I sold 3 homes my first year, and we've got brand new agents who are like selling a home a month.
Do they
already,
assign you a
right off.
mentor when you come on board new with Keller Williams?
Well, they have what they call it's a 12, not a 12-week, it's a month process of classes called Ignite. So it teaches you what you learned in real estate school and how to apply it, how to write a contract, how to hold an open house, how to do CMAs, pretty much everything that a realtor does, but you don't really learn in school. And then for your first 3 transactions, one of the coaches shadows you, you have to get them to check.
We have
the
a
contract.
3-coach coaching team
Oh,
that are all experienced agents, really experienced agents, and that's the majority of what they all sell real estate as well, but they're in the office pretty much Monday through Friday.
And available via phone or Zoom on weekends to help people, because that's when all the action happens, is after hours. But they'll shadow you for your first 3 transactions, and if you want further coaching, you can do that on an as needed like fee based kind of thing.
right.
But there's always people, and even people will reach out to us if they have questions about things, if we're in the office, or even if we're not. That's the other thing that's really cool about our brokerage, is that everybody's always willing to help. I mean, if you can't find somebody to help you, immediately, if you walk 50 feet, then you'll probably find somebody in 50 or 100 feet that has the knowledge and is willing to help you. So there's just a big network.
That's a good culture to have, because you always need a mentor, you need coaching. Even our industry, you need a mentor, you need coaching all the time. Because
I mean, I feel very blessed I would never have gotten in this business if it wouldn't have been for her and her knowledge. But I can't imagine, being 20, 30 years younger and going into it cold, without any kind of knowledge, and I know that's why there's such a high attrition, because people get in and they don't know what to do once they get their license.
Because it's a lot to get your license. I mean, all the studying and all the classes, and then take your test, and then this and that, and then now that you have your license in your mind, you're like, now what? I got to go get sponsored.
Exactly.
Okay, now what? So it's important, right? Like you mentioned, to have that little push and that mentorship to get you put in the right direction.
Yeah.
Well, I want to, thank you guys for being on. This is some good information that I'm glad we had a chance to visit. How do my listeners get in touch with you guys for listing appointments or any questions about real estate?
Sure. They can call or text me, 469-2 247-3632, or they can email us at robert.irvin@kw.com.
And my cell number is 972-741-3348.
Perfect. And if you're listening out there, we will put their links to their website on the podcast as well. So we'll make sure that you can link directly to their information. Again, my name is Richard Sarey with Alliance Mortgage Group. And if you want to subscribe to our podcast show, just go to Helping Heroes Become Homeowners podcast.com. And as always, if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please give us a call at 214-872-2188. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If this episode has been beneficial, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, for regular updates and tips, make sure to follow our social media channels, which you can find in the show notes. Until our next episode, keep making homeownership dreams come true.